We're on. GMGAG, everybody. Welcome to a special edition, Dev and Tell Web3Con style. So, if you did not know, Dev and Tell is a developer DAO initiative where it's a 30-minute window for members of the DAO to showcase something they're passionate about or been working on. This can be an awesome project you've been working on, demonstrating unit test best practices, automation goodies, smart contracts, how to structure a project, etc. Basically, if you got a passion for something, this is your opportunity to share it with the community. And this week, in the spirit of Web3Con, we have Nina from Edge Node and the Graph here to show us a really cool new feature they've just released. So, Nina, handing it off to you.
Hi, everybody. Nice to be here. Let me just do a quick intro about me. So I've been the product engineering lead at Edge Node, but I've been with the Graph for almost 4 years since we were a really little startup. And I was a developer myself for many years. And then last year I built a team, and I have an amazing team who I like to give a lot of credit for all these features that they were building. And so I became product engineering lead. You guys might be familiar with subgraphs, but I just wanted to kind of give a little bit of intro before I jump into the feature. So subgraphs essentially are these projects that developers build, and they represent open APIs that enable users to query data from different blockchains. And so developers would define a GraphQL schema, subgraph manifest, and a bunch of other things. And then they could deploy them to our decentralized network. And I'm just going to start screen sharing because I feel visuals oftentimes speak better than words. And so here are subgraphs on the decentralized network. There's plenty of them. And if you want to, I guess there's, I think, a lot of open source subgraph code out there to kind of get started. And we also have a CLI command that kind of creates an initial, like a scaffold of a subgraph to get started. So every subgraph, let's click on one, essentially has an owner, and that's the Ethereum address. Okay, like that we show right here. And so what we have is as a GNS contract that we will call to publish a subgraph. And since it was just an ERC20 contract, it wasn't in the past, you wouldn't be able to transfer this subgraph. It would belong to the person who created, developed, and deployed and published this subgraph. So what we did, essentially, the smart contracts team we collaborate with, we create an NFT contract. So now every time a person creates a subgraph, an NFT is minted, and I'll show you our collection. And that subgraph can easily be transferred to a DAO, to a multi-sig, so it can enable further collaboration on it. And I think it's a pretty cool thing. And here you can see our collection on OpenSea, and these are all the subgraphs that were on the network that we migrated over once we launched this feature. And so I can show you. I actually recorded a video just because you never know how live demo is gonna go. Do you guys see my because it turned into full screen? Do you see the video screen?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Right, so this is my subgraph, and I guess I didn't mention, so what I showed is Explorer, which are the subgraphs, kind of more of a browsing experience. But in Subgraph Studio, which is another product we develop, is you create subgraphs and deploy them easily, and we kind of walk you through. And this is the one that's published to mainnet, and it's version 1. And I'll play the video, but I'm just going to pause to explain a couple of things because it goes really fast. And here in these 3 dots, you can just click on Transfer Ownership. Select the address, we validated it's a valid address, transfer, thankfully gas was low when I was recording this, and we just put a note here that transferring subgraph is irreversible, make sure you know what you're doing. We have a little bit of a docs. Although when I was looking at this, I was also thinking, if you transfer a subgraph to a friend, for example, and they want to transfer it back to you, that is doable. But in general, okay, so cool. So what's happening here, the transaction was successful, and we bring you back to, so with this particular test account, I have no other subgraphs. So now it doesn't belong to me anymore, and I can't see it on this screen. But I'm going to actually log out and log in with my other MetaMask account, because I'm just transferring to myself here, and show that now on my other account, I can actually see it. And now that other account is the new owner of it. So there is the little subgraph. So let me get out of this screen and just show a couple of other things. So here I am logged into, or not, okay. Oh no, sorry, yeah, this is in Explorer. In Studio, I'm logged in with that account and I can now see the subgraph that's transferred to me. And here in Explorer, we can see the new owner here. And just one, and also on OpenSea, I can see the same subgraph owned by me now. And I just want to mention here, people might know, but you can also transfer it on OpenSea. The same thing, just paste the address and transfer it here. One quick thing I just want to mention, because it kind of happened to me, is that, and I left this kind of on purpose, I changed some metadata, because should have been more original here, but anyways, and when you update the details here, it's another contract transactions, it doesn't automatically update on OpenSea. So you actually need to, even if it's like a few days after, so actually would need to click here, refresh, and then refresh it here to kind of see your new updated metadata. So yeah, this is kind of the main part of my demo. But I think this is pretty cool because I feel like people can collaborate easier. Would be easier to maintain a subgraph. And then let's say somebody leaves the DAO, they can transfer to another address. And then subgraphs that are owned by DAO address the transfer could be part of proposals and things like that. So let me stop sharing and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
This was great, Nena. Thank you so much. I guess one question for me is, what was the inspiration to kind of get this feature out there? Like, what drove the Graph Edgenode to kind of get this out there?
User feedback.
Yeah, nice.
A lot of users requesting, and we will listen to our users, or at least try our best. And there's a forum.thegraph.com, and I think that's where people kind of started posting and wanting to us to build this. So yeah, that was kind of what all kicked it all off.
Awesome. Gang, does anybody have any questions for Nena?
What's the easiest way to get started in the sort of the graph ecosystem? Like, I know that you can build subgraphs, but there's a couple of other different levels of activity that you could do. I guess from my perspective as a builder, what's like the easiest way to get involved in the graph ecosystem?
Oh, that's a great question. So there's different roles that you can get involved. As a developer, you can definitely get involved as a subgraph developer. You could also get involved as an indexer. And we have a lot of support for indexers. I think you might notice our Discord when you can join the indexer channel. So it depends what you want. So as a subgraph developer, we have a lot of documentation. If you, let's say, look around our docs and like learn a little bit about different roles and figure out, let's say you want to build a subgraph. So then we kind of guide you through what I was showing a little bit, like you go through Subgraph Studio and we create this kind of initial scaffold and maybe you could look up and then you decide which contracts you want the subgraph to index. And also join the channel to get community help. There's also Graph Academy that provides a lot of good videos and tutorials on how to do things. And other than developers and indexers that are more kind of very technical role, you could get involved as a curator when you would curate subgraphs that you want them to be indexed. And you could also get involved as a delegator when you essentially lend your GRT to indexers.
Nice. Like three of those roles are like supply side, right? And then what? And then you have like users that pay GTC to use what people are indexing and providing the network.
Right. Sorry, I didn't hear the last. Can you say a little more detail? The indexers?
Sorry, badly worded question. There's like four kind of groups of roles, right, for the graph. Yeah. Like three of them are like supply side that like make the network work, and then we can also utilize the network by querying it, right?
Right, you can utilize, exactly, DApp developer, I was going to mention that. Yeah, you can You can utilize the network, develop the apps, use different subgraphs, and things like that for sure. You can also get involved. I mean, there's many ways. We give grants. The Graph Foundation gives grants to people to improve our ecosystem. There's also advocacy program that we have that you can get involved. We just recently launched it. So yeah, there is several ways, but yeah, please build more dApps for tools that we need out there.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Nena, I have a question about the graph. Actually, two questions. I'll start with the first one. The first one is, when are you guys planning on supporting mutations? I saw there's like a couple like references of it, and like it just seems like a super interesting use case. And I
Yes,
saw like
I
a
love
repo
that
already
question,
built.
and I care about that question too. It was like my internal question as well. But we have core M teams now that are onboarding, and that are working on that feature. I can't tell you when exactly because but it will come. It will be soonish. I know that it's been kind of in the works.
Got it. Perfect. And then for my second question, so one of the things I was curious about, like I'm building a subgraph right now for our app in hackathon. One of the questions I have is there a way, like, is it like, I see there's like some generate, like code generation. I was wondering like for the GraphQL schema, you have to essentially type that out yourself and you map it yourself. Do you know of any tools that like handle that mapping like itself?
That's a good question. Hold on. I just recently saw some where was it? Generated schema. You mean to define from the mapping to define your schema?
Exactly. Yeah. So from the AB like from the ABI mapping, like because you're
Yeah.
already having the types there, and a lot of times you don't really need to do any custom mapping at that point. I was wondering if there
Right.
was like code generation at that level. You know what I mean?
Very good. Yeah, very good question. You know what? Why don't you ask? I'm not 100% sure, but I know I saw something that had like that looked like it had like a automatically generated schema rather than like handwritten.
Okay.
Why don't you ask in the graph community? There's like subgraph developers channel, and people are pretty responsive. So what I would do is just
Okay.
ask there.
Cool. Thank you.
Sure.
Great questions here, gang. Any others?
I've got another. It's about the grant program, if that's okay. Are there any
Mhm.
like specific things that you're looking to fund at the moment, or is it kind of more open and anything that sort of fits into the graphs ecosystem?
I'd say it's more open. It's things that fit in the graph ecosystem. Having said that, I'm not sure if we fund particular. You know what? There's actually when you go to a blog, there's a couple of blog posts with the projects that we just fund in. I think there's two or three, and then you can see a list of projects and type of projects that we fund. Because I don't want to speak, I don't know exactly how the foundation filters people, but I would say we're pretty open, but I would still look into that before applying to see if you fit into that.
Awesome, thanks.
Sure.
A follow up to that question, actually, that was a good question. I was wondering, it'd be kind of like this is more feedback. It'd be cool to see like like how the Y Combinator has like a request for startups for grants because that'd be like to like help people get started in this ecosystem because it's a super interesting ecosystem.
Yes, that is a good idea. You mean to build something that people can just go there and
Yeah,
request?
so like more like a blog, well, like a post about like what they're looking for and like what the foundation is looking for on like more of like a request for startup. There's like
Yes,
a
you know what?
really
I'm
good
going to
example.
ask. Yeah, that's a good thing. I'm actually gonna let me ask Eva, and then I can post it in the channel, one of the channels. Just tell me which one. Because there might be.
Cool. Thank you.
I guess question for me. So regarding costs to query subgraphs, is it are those costs set by the indexers or and on average, what do you see as like the average transaction cost per query?
That's a very complicated
Oh,
question to
sorry.
answer.
Sorry.
It depends. It depends on the complexity of the query.
Yeah.
Indexers are setting how much of the query fees are, depending on the parameters, such an query fee cut, they're setting how much of the query fees will belong to them versus the curators and other things. But I can also point you to blog posts that explain that in a little bit of detail. I'll share, let me put a note, I'll share that as well. It's not a simple answer, and I don't know myself, like all the details, how the whole mechanism works.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good question. We were actually just kind of have something in works when we can let people decide whether they want to maximize the low price or the efficiency of the query and like different things like that, and set different parameters, because it all kind of plays a role.
Gotcha. And I guess from a consumption standpoint, is querying a subgraph, like is there like a caching mechanism on your end so that the transactions or the queries are returned in a quick manner? And like as a developer, should we be caching these responses on our end, since the event logs that are emitted are kind of, they are what they are until they get updated? So is there any guidance there on how often we should be refreshing our data if we are caching?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I'm not sure if there is something caching at the moment on the Subgraph side. On the front end applications that we build, we do some caching on the front end.
Yeah.
In particular, we use Apollo and Apollo Cache.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not 100% sure if it's implemented from the other side.
Cool. Yeah, basically, in my mind, is whether or not if I'm querying a subgraph, if I should be hitting up a network call for every call, or if I can save on some network calls by caching. But yeah, something to explore for sure.
Yeah, definitely. You could also ask that in the Subgraph channel on the software developers channel on the chat.
For sure.
Yeah, but on the front end side, like I said, in the front end we do use a cache.
Sweet. Makes sense. We have about 11 minutes left here, gang. Are there any last questions or questions for Nena?
I had a question for Nena. This is more like career related. So I noticed that your title says project engineering lead. So I was wondering if you could touch upon like how you found yourself in that role and the types of like engineers that you would want to work with and would succeed in a role like yours.
Yes, good question. How I found myself in that role or any role, I feel like I stumbled upon it because we were an early stage startup and I essentially did all the things. So I did kind of a bunch of what leads do, is kind of do cross team dependencies, collaborate on features, make sure it gets out and things like that. And then once I started hiring more developers, it made sense to me I just stopped having time to code. And I wanted to build my team and empower them and encourage them and give them everything they need to perform at their best, essentially. And so I just kind of naturally transitioned into a lead position, and I'm still learning and improving. But what I'm looking for people is people who are resourceful, kind of, because we are all working different time zones. And so then we don't overlap at all times. So what would take for our team, and I have really a great team, I love my team, is everybody comes up with ideas, shares them, tries to implement, tries to improve things. Everybody's really passionate about what we are building, and I just give them a lot of freedom and needed resources to succeed.
Awesome, thanks. And then I guess another question would be like, what are some interesting like differences you notice in terms of like, looking at user feedback or sourcing that from like the Web3 space versus your prior experiences at other Web2 companies?
Okay, sorry, what was the first part of the question? It was kind of, there was a background noise. What are...
all good. I guess it was just more of like any interesting differences you notice when gathering user feedback in a Web3 space versus at your prior experiences at Web2 companies?
Right. Yes, I've spent many years at Web2 companies prior to kind of jumping into Web3. Yeah, well, it's very chatty in Web3. We have a lot of chat, like I said, on Discord. Even early on, we're just trying to build things and keep an eye on the chats, and we were all kind of trying to see what people need and what users want us to build, and we really listen to that feedback. So I guess the main difference is that people are very freely giving feedback and have access to us. In Web3, which is great, and it's great for them. For us, like, we keep ourselves busy all the time. I love that we talk to users, and I love that there are different opportunities to share the feedback, and we actually do implement it. Maybe not right away, but we talk about it, and we kind of let our users help us with what are we going to build and how to improve it.
Yeah, the spirit of collaboration seems to be much stronger in the Web3 space.
Yeah, totally.
Thank you.
I guess on the topic of feedback, what's the best way for folks to give you that feedback? Just hop in your Discord, or?
Yeah, I would say hop in a Discord. You could post in the forum and then kind of create more of a conversation when other people can comment, like people post different proposals there. There is also, depending on what feedback is on, I know we have open source repos on GitHub where people create issues. So kind of like maybe a combination of those. Let's say you post a forum post and then like share it on Discord to get other people's take on that. Yeah, those are, I think, the best ones. Sometimes people also send an email to, I don't even know which address. I think it's somewhere. Sorry, I can't help there, but I know I do receive feedback. It gets forwarded to me if it's like a product feedback. But we do monitor Discord.
Excellent.
And I thought I would just mention that as part of your sponsorship, the job board's now live. So the Edge and Node jobs that were sent through to us are live on that job board or on Edge and Node's own website if you want to go check them out.
Rocket emojis.
So which job post? Is it a specific job posting?
It's the ones you have on your website. We've replicated onto our job board, and then we've shared them with all the conference attendees. And I've just put it in the text chat if anyone wants to go have a look.
Okay, cool. Yes. The jobs we had on our sites are still active. We are actively hiring and looking for passionate people.
I did have one question. What feedback, specifically, like what keywords or ideas from the comments generated the need in your eyes or your vision to make the product?
To make, in general, our two products?
Yes.
Let me think. That was way in the past when we were thinking about having something like this, because we evolved over time. So originally we launched Explorer, or originally we launched hosted service, which was kind of like a one indexer to try to do proof of concept for the decentralized network. And then as subgraphs kind of became more and more important, and we were trying to figure out how to make it easier for subgraph developers to develop subgraphs and get started, we kind of noticed the need. And I honestly, sorry, I can't remember exactly. Like, there must have been also somewhere in chats, because like a long time ago, we were brainstorming it until it actually came to life. We noticed the need to have some sort of like a playground, like a developer playground. Essentially, you can to have something where you don't need to put your subgraph on chain and pay the fees right away. So in Studio, we do use a database. You deploy your subgraphs, you see what they look like, you try to query them in the playground, see if that's what you intended to do. You can also deploy multiple versions without having to kind of directly publish them all on chain. And then like when you're happy, you publish on chain. So we kind of envision some sort of a tool like that for a while. And ever since we launched it, we keep actually getting a lot of feedback, and we've been building more features. Like we added multi-sig, which we didn't kind of support at the beginning. Then we also, another use case for Studio was we noticed that you need to manage your API keys somewhere. So we added that onto Studio. And then there's also billing that we will improve, that we use Polygon Bridge. So kind of made sense for all those features to live in Studio because they're relating. So I don't know if that even answers your questions, but it was like the evolution of things.
Yeah, definitely get that.
All right. We're almost at the top of the hour. Are there any final questions? Going once. Going twice. All right. Guess not. Well, thank you again very much, Nina. We really appreciate you coming on and having this talk with us. It was very insightful, and I'm sure a lot of folks here are knees deep, hacking away with the graph and subgraphs. And this was a fantastic insight into the overall graph ecosystem and the new NFT feature. And special shout out to Eva. I think she's in here for helping connect both of us more or less to make this happen.
Yes, thank you Eva, for sending me everything I need and make it easy for me to join.
So with that, I will say to all our audience here, make sure to visit the Graph channel in the sponsors category and ask any subgraph and graph questions you have, as we're almost nearing the deadline for hackathon submissions. So if you have any outstanding queries or whatnot, please make sure to engage with the graph community here. And for all attendees, as well as you, Nina, there is a special POAP, Web3Con Dev and Tell POAP that I will post in the hackathon voice text. So for the audience, and then Nina, I will give yours through DM. So
awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. This was really nice. And yeah, please join our Discord and ask your questions there, and we'll answer them. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, gang. All the best, and see you at Web3Con. All right.